What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by two of the greats in this industry, Jurg and Dame. Fellas, how are we this week?
I'm doing well. Week one winner of our picks. I expect nothing new going forward. Other than that, I'm good.
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Just powering through what has basically been like a pretty mundane and boring September. Aside from getting to record the greatest sports podcast in the world with two of the absolute legends in this game that I get to work with, and most importantly, boys, uh, just relaxing it and stretching. Because even when you're not active, you guys want to make sure to stretch. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to unfortunately like tear something in your body. That would just be unfortunate to do that, especially before something important. Just a word to the wise for the people.
Okay. So week one of the NFL has come and gone, and my God, what an eventful week it has been. Fellas, we're all excited that the NFL's back. I think we kind of started off the season with a stunning result, and then of course NFL Sunday happened. Um, I would say a mixed bag of like decent games and like some tough games to watch, to be honest. And then of course Monday happened. Monday was a phenomenal game, but a bunch of storylines coming from that game. So yeah, we're just gonna recap week one. Results, surprises, thoughts on the results, thoughts on teams that have disappointed us, thoughts on teams that have surprised us. Of course, we're going to talk about the Aaron Rodgers situation. What the Jets might have to do going forward, and yeah, we'll also talk about our thoughts going into week two and possible games that deserve some more attention. And of course, we'll give our clowns and crowns for the week. But yeah, it's just going to be an NFL Week One recap, fellas. Are we good with that?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right, nice. Just a difference in in excitement right there. But yeah, okay. So fellas, quick recap of the results. I'm just gonna go through every game. Lions beat the Chiefs. Browns beat the Bengals. Ravens beat the Texans. Bucks beat the Vikings. Falcons beat the Panthers. Commanders beat the Cardinals. Jaguars beat the Colts. 49ers beat the Steelers. Saints beat the Titans. Raiders beat the Broncos. Eagles beat the Patriots. Rams beat the Seahawks. Dolphins beat the Chargers. Packers beat the Bears. Cowboys thrashed the Giants. And the Jets defeat the Bills. So fellas, there were some games that turned out the way we expected, and then there were a lot of surprises actually. But I mean, guys, I would say like I think it was like most of the 1 o'clock slate where it was just some meh football. I mean, defense is back, baby. Long passes, we are on the downhill for that one. There's actually an article that I've been meaning to read about like the death of like the long pass, not the death, but like it's kind of like taken backseat the last couple of years. But yeah, just in general, fellas, what'd you make of week one? Dirk, let me start off with you.
So week one, let's be honest here, all in all was a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah, but
and
some rust, some rust.
yeah, but let's call a spade a spade. Like let's be real here. Like yes, you could say for this team there was this and this team there was that. But let's be honest, overall it was underwhelming. We're allowed to criticize football even when it's back. We're allowed to say this. Like yes, it was an underwhelming week overall. There were some interesting moments here and there. There was something that happened for the first time ever in a game, which we'll probably get to here. Potentially might be mentioned in the clown segment of the show, considering what a debacle one of the primetime games was. But overall, it was a relatively underwhelming game back, week one back. But I'm actually, here's the thing, I'm not deterred by it. I think this is going to set up for what is shaping up to be a very interesting rest of it. Like rest of the season as we go week by week and even going into week two, because I think we got a lot of questions to ask about certain teams that we had certain expectations of. And I actually like that. I like the fact that we're able to ask questions about teams like the Cincinnati Bengals per se, who just had a really rough week one in part because Joe Burrow was obviously injured for majority of the preseason, and he didn't really get to play or practice a lot even, so he looked that bad in the first game. What is he going to look like in the next game? A lot of injuries happen, especially to the Baltimore Ravens. They had a lot of guys leave their games. What are they going to look like as the season progresses? A team like that. What about the, not injury per se, but a team like the Los Angeles Chargers? They benched J.C. Jackson, their highest paid cornerback on that team, because of poor performance. Tua was phenomenal. Jordan Love was phenomenal. we have a lot of questions to ask about various teams that maybe are they going to break what our preseason expectations and predictions were. So I think despite the fact that if you go game by game, there was some underwhelming results, I think overall there was plenty of intrigue to be had
Hmm.
about like week one. Uh, it was unpredictable, some of the results, and I think we get to this sets us up for some exciting weeks of like, oh, are certain teams actually for real? Is Josh McDaniels finally a good coach in Vegas? Probably not, but they won the first week. Uh, are is Jordan Love going to be a competent NFL quarterback? Are the Cleveland Browns for real this season? Is Deshaun Watson going to return to form at least 70% of what he was at the peak of his powers in Houston? We get to ask these questions about games that, even though the results were very lopsided, it gives us reason to pay attention to some of these teams for more than 4 to 5 games in the season. Like, that's pretty cool. Except for the Arizona Cardinals. We know we don't have to pay attention to them for the rest of the season. But aside from that, we can pay attention to everybody else.
They
Not very.
almost ruined their season, Jerk, by winning
Yeah, yeah,
week
and
one.
and even that the tank bowl for 2023 with the Arizona Cardinals on a weekly basis. I mean, it's alive and well, which I'm very happy about. And the Atlanta Falcons, a team that I thought it was going to be, touch and go on, were they going to be a tanking team or not? That two-headed backfield behemoth that they have with Algier and Bijan is looking really good, to say the very least. So I think all in all, it's great stuff. Like we get to look forward, I think, to a lot of teams after this first week. Whereas I feel like in seasons past, like I feel like this time last year, we already knew for like 3-4 teams, we don't need to care about them for the rest of the season. And I felt like for 3 or 4 teams, we knew they were going to be good. This season, I think we have a lot more teams to ask questions about, like, how good are you actually going to be? And we might not get these answers until the trade deadline. I liked I like the fact that more than just 5 teams in the league, we can actually be interested in. That's not always the case if we're being honest about it. So I think week one, from that perspective, was actually a success.
Dame, general thoughts about week one without going into detail.
My agendas went absolutely crazy this weekend. Tell you that much. From Justin Herbert to Josh Allen, to Justin Fields. I forgot
Yeah.
there was one more agenda I forgot, but off the top of my head, it was great. But as for actual football, bias aside, it was pretty underwhelming. I think a lot of defenses showed out. You saw the Browns defense showed out. You saw Jets defense show out. You saw Cowboys defense show out. There's a lot of great defensive performances per se, but then again, I mean, I'm not gonna give all the credit to those defenses. Like, for example, the Giants' offense just is absolutely garbage. Like, a lot of the mistakes are kind of unforced. They did to themselves. As for the Browns and Bengals, the weather was awful in that game. The weather was awful in a couple games actually. So, there's reasons why the scoring was kind of low and there wasn't as much exciting offense. But overall, definitely underwhelming. But it's week one. We got 17 more weeks to go.
Yep. Very good perspective to have. All right, so we're not going to go through all the games. I know I just said all the results, but we're going to go into detail about some more notable ones, of course. Let's talk about the first game that started the NFL season. Chiefs Lions. Lions win by a point against the Chiefs. I think it's important to note that no Travis Kelsey because he hurt his knee. Because dudes want to clown right before the game for fantasy owners out there. I know how frustrating that could be. Let's get our shit together, fucking Travis. Jesus.
Wow.
And then of course Chris Jones with a holdout. Chris Jones actually re-signed a few days ago for the rest of the year, I believe. Right? Was it the rest of the year?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah, for
was it
this year.
was yeah, it was just a reworking of the current year that's left on his contract. He's still going to be a free agent after this season.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know what the holdout was for then, but whatever, neither here nor there. But the Lions defeat the Chiefs, and I think a lot of people were just like, all right, we could see the Lions winning this game, but it's the Chiefs. The Chiefs have earned the benefit of the doubt of just like, all right, you could just give Mahomes whoever, and he'll get the job done. And I think we all picked the Chiefs, and then of course the Lions win the game. Um, I would say it was a pretty okay game. Defenses, I mean, it was both offenses were kind of meh. Um, the Chiefs could have had this, but man, oh man, talk about a disaster class of performances. Sky Moore, I think, obviously didn't have that great of a game, but obviously the attention was not towards him; it was towards Kadarius Toney, who the Chiefs are very high on, who they think he could be a wide receiver one. Now, before we get into like the annihilation of him, I think it's important to note that he missed all of training camp with a knee injury and he was recovering. Kind of fought to, you know, be back for game one. I think he missed training camp as well. Uh, wow. I mean, there was. I don't need to what's known doesn't have to be said because he's been getting eviscerated all over social media and news outlets because the dropped passes were crazy, dog. It was nuts. I feel like if I mean one of the drop passes was turned into a pick six, and honestly, if just if if that pass just didn't turn into a pick six, I think the Chiefs could have won. There was a pass towards the end, like the Lions, I think went for it on a fourth down towards the end, and I think everyone the clock was it kind of led to the same storyline that we're just used to of just Mahomes gets the ball in the last 2 or 3 minutes, kills the opposing team, wins the game for them at the end. And that's where it was heading, right? And then, of course, it was going to go that way if Kadarius Toney caught that pass and he was wide open. I don't know if he would have took it to the crib, but it looked like he had enough space to at least, get some yardage to a point where they're near the end zone. Yeah, he blew the game for them. He blew the game for them. They have I think they're going to have Travis back for week 2, but look, Mahomes is undefeated week 1. Guys, I know we're all Mahomes fans here. We want him to win every single game. We want we want the Chiefs to succeed. I will say, but it was inevitable that he was going to lose a week 1 eventually. I will say though, I'm not completely angry that the Lions were the one to beat them, man. I think this is a nice turnout, man. This is a nice change in events. It's kind of just yo, the Lions they're for real, man. I know the Chiefs are kind of thin because the second and third best player were out. But I mean, look, the Lions, they took care of business. It's a game that if you're here, if you've arrived as a legitimate team and as the odds-on favorite from Vegas, you kind of have to win a game where the second and third best player of the opposing team isn't playing. And I know Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, but I mean, what a way to show out. And they did. They did. Jared Goff is 2-0 against Mahomes now. He looked great, in my opinion. No Jameson Williams, by the way, but yeah, I mean, shout out to the Lions. They really brought it, guys. Any takeaways from this game of note, or were you surprised by the result and how the game turned out, Dame?
I was definitely surprised by the way it turned out, just because of the track record that Mahomes, the Chiefs, and Andy Reid have week ones. Andy Reid has a track record of buys to be incredible because he prepares very well, and especially if having a whole offseason to prepare for that week 1. They usually win, and they usually win in convincing fashion. One positive I'll take away from the Chiefs is their defense. I think looked great. This is without Chris Jones. They only gave up one offensive touchdown, and that was the St. Brown touchdown. So that was very encouraging to see if I was a Chiefs fan. And now Chris Jones obviously coming back, your defense is gonna be that much better. And it's not like you went against some bad offense. The Lions' offense is pretty good. From Montgomery to Gibbs, a two-headed monster there in the backfield. Then you have St. Brown on the outside, Jared Goff obviously throwing the ball, and a stud offensive line, arguably the best offensive line in the league. It's a very tough offense to play defense against, especially week 1 without your best defensive player. And the Chiefs' defense showed out, in my opinion. But then I think it's pretty obvious the reason why the Chiefs didn't win this game, and that was because of their offense. And I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes went out there and had a spectacular game and just everyone else absolutely blew it, but he put them in position to win. He put the ball in his receivers' hands to make plays, and they just weren't able to do it. They weren't able to catch the ball. They weren't able to get open. Sky Moore basically just doing his cardio for the week. Kadarius Toney, I don't know what's going on with him. He's still, I don't know. I don't know. But then without having, obviously, Travis Kelce, it changes the whole game plan too. So I think that had definitely had an effect on it, because I'm sure Andy Reid going into this game and all these weeks leading up to it had a game plan including Travis Kelce. I'm sure we all know he's a big part of the game plan. So I'm sure that had an effect onto why maybe they didn't look as prepared. But I don't think Andy Reid had a good game coaching either. He had a lot of questionable decisions on a lot of these third and short or fourth and short plays. He ran reverses and end arounds, which are pretty stupid. I mean, if you're going to do any kind of tricky shit like that, you might as well just run the ball up the middle with Pacheco, or put the ball in Mahomes' hands to make a play, a quick little screen pass or a slant up the middle or something like that. But I think Andy Reid definitely had a questionable game with some of the play calling on third and fourth and short. But good for the Lions. I mean, like Chris mentioned, going into Arrowhead, defending champs week 1, everyone knows their track record week 1 and stuff, and being able to pull out a game like that, especially when the Lions aren't a team that like doesn't have expectation and no one like cares about them. Going into the season, a lot of people have high expectations for the Lions. A lot of people pick them to win the division. Sports books have them as a favorite to win the division. So people are paying attention to the Lions, and for them to go on the road in Arrowhead and win this game was huge.
Yeah, to really echo Dame's sentiments with it, like all the props in the world to Detroit for winning this game. Was there a lot that happened that you could say may have gone into the win? Yes, but at the end of the day, the win is the win. Uh, all we care about at this point is the fact that the Lions are 1-0 in their division and the Chiefs are 0-1. That's what ultimately matters. And I got to give props because, yes, even though there was no Travis Kelce, it's still Patrick Mahomes on the other side of the field. And the Detroit Lions defense, which, at least for me personally, as I started to go through it position by position, I started to have a little bit more concern with their defense. And my personal thing about the Lions defense, commenting about them, was that the whole needs to play better than the sum of its parts in order for Detroit to be able to win some of these
Yeah.
games that we might not expect them to win. And they did exactly that at the end of the day. Like, we do not really expect the defending champions to lose on the opening game unless it's to a team that is of equal or better caliber, a la the Buffalo Bills over the Rams last season, which was a slaughter. Like, yeah, the expectation was the Chiefs, and even with the Travis Kelce news, I think everyone expected, yeah, the Chiefs are still probably going to win this game. It'll just be closer. But no, like the Lions, amazing win at the end for the Kansas City Chiefs. I will just say this, and it's not just Kadarius Toney. Sky Moore needs to step up. Like if Travis Kelce is going to miss another week or two, which I think is very much a possibility here, the skill position group on this team needs to take a leap, and they need to show why they have been regarded going into the season yet again as the AFC West favorites, as potential AFC favorites yet again. We believe in Andy Reid. We believe in Patrick Mahomes. But it's this position group that needs to take that next step. You got to see Sky Moore be a lot better next week. You got to see Kadarius Toney be a lot better next week. You got to see Justin Ross, who I hope gets even more, like way more looks in future Chiefs games here. That's a guy I've been high on since college when he tore up Alabama in the national championship game as a freshman. Like, the Chiefs will be just fine. They just need a little bit of time to work it out. It just kind of like is unfortunate for them that they have such a tough schedule in terms of like the quality of teams that they're facing. But hey, champions are not made in easy conditions. Diamonds are made under pressure, not under stable conditions. So the Chiefs will be just fine from this. This is just a bump in the road for them.
All right. Okay, let's move on to the Bengals versus the Browns, where the Browns slaughtered the Bengals. Guys, 24-3 Browns. Not a good game. I understand there was, some very suspect weather conditions. It was raining like crazy, but the Browns got the job done. And is Burrow 1-5 against the Browns? Like he has a bad record against them, right?
Yeah, he's struggled against Cleveland in his career, which is kind of weird.
Someone fact check the record against the Browns for me if they can. But yeah, I mean, he's always struggled against the Browns. The Browns, I think, well, to Damian's credit, he has them as a dark horse team to make noise this NFL season. They have a decent roster, in my opinion, and that defense is not, you know, not something to play with, bro. And man, did they make it tough for Joe Burrow. I understand the Bengals O line is cooked, but Jesus, it's just there's no excuse. Like what happened? All right, jerk fact check me. He is 1-5 against the Browns. Jamar Chase neutralized. T. Higgins was virtually non-existent, and that was kind of surprising. And that might lead to like a bigger discussion because T. Higgins has been in some trade rumors here and there. So Joe Burrow just signed like the richest contract in NFL history, and he follows it up with this performance. I gotta say, man, disappointed in Joe Burrow. It's just I hate saying this because like it's just like it's a never ending discussion. But he is someone that I think in consensus for this podcast we have him as the number 2 quarterback in the NFL. I don't know, man. Like he does get a little bit of leeway for these type of performances from like pundits and all that. Like he doesn't get the criticism that he deserves, and like this performance was hot ass, boy. I don't know. I was very disappointed in Joe Burrow, especially coming off that contract extension, bro. It's just I know he struggles with them, but I know he struggles against the Browns, but man, this was tough to watch. But look, I'm not writing off the Bengals by any means. They'll pick it up. They start off 0-2 last year. They do have the Ravens next week for week 2. Let's not talk about that yet. But I don't know. I think this says more about the Browns, though, than it does the Bengals. I think that division's tough. And I think to get a win against the Bengals, your division rival, off rip, that's like saying, yo, we're here right now. You got to pay attention to us too. It's not just the Ravens and it's not just the Bengals. Steelers are kind of in their own camp right now. I'll take the L on that, but I think the Browns do have. If Watson could be somewhat competent, we're looking at a wild card team, in my opinion. I know that one of their offensive linemen got hurt for the year. That's gonna like sting heavily, but I do think top to bottom they have a very stacked roster. Jerg, what'd you make of this game?
I was highly impressed overall speaking with the Cleveland Browns, and I was right there with Dame in the preseason. I thought that the Cleveland Browns have more than a fair shot to be a contender right up towards the end when it comes to the AFC wildcard hunt. And considering how the first week of this season went, the AFC wildcard races might even look more interesting than what we
Mm-hmm.
thought going in. But let's focus on the now. Ultimately speaking, yes, outstanding performance by the Browns. I do get your point, Chris. It was disappointing what how Joe Burrow performed, but again, if we gave Kadarius Toney like the benefit, at least we're giving him the benefit of the doubt of he missed time due to injury and tried to rush back. We do need to note the fact that Burrow basically missed the entirety of the preseason due to a calf strain, didn't play a single snap. And I'm gonna be real with you, I don't think he should have played this first game. Look, I have been questionable against Zach Taylor as a head coach, maybe more than most people have, considering he's had double digit coaching seasons, double digit win coaching season the last few years and has made back to back AFC title games. That does not mean that you can be absconded from criticism.
Yeah.
I don't think Joe Burrow should have even played this first game. I think he should have gotten one. Like, it's week one. Who gives a dang? Like, if like I was just mentioning with the Chiefs, if the Chiefs don't play Travis Kelce, it's not a big deal. The first 2 to 3 weeks of the season for a good team are not going to kill you. It kills you if you're a mid team. It's not going to kill you if you're an actual good team. Which, again, questions we got to ask about other teams here. So I think it was rough overall. But this game, like you said, Chris, if you said your bit about the Browns, I've always believed in that. They're extremely talented. They've only needed 2 things, really. They needed a goddamn quarterback, and they needed a head coach. And we need to have those answers questioned over the next couple weeks more. But a solid first week for Deshaun Watson here, and Kevin Stefanski starting to be a better coach again, closer to what he was 2 years ago, not last season, because he wasn't the best of coaches last season for all we could say about their situation. So there was that. But this really told me something that I was, saying this as to why I don't think the Bengals will win the AFC North this season. Their defense took a step back. They lost a lot of pieces in the defense, especially in the defensive backfield with Jesse Bates going to Atlanta and Von Bell going over to the Carolina Panthers. Like, they lost guys, and you have a secondary now that's a lot of young pieces, man. It's going to give you trouble. You need to hope for consistency to come back up again with that defensive line. Like, this Bengals defense, I think, had a lot more questions than what we wanted to ask them during the offseason. And I think we saw in this first week, the Bengals they got to figure a couple things out. So I'm right there with you. Joe could have been better, yes, but I think we need to ask questions about Cincy as a whole because nobody played good for the Bengals in that game. Burrow didn't play good. The receivers didn't play good. The defense did not play good in any way, shape, or form, to say the very least. So Cincy has question marks after week one, as they should.
Yeah, the weather in this game was brutal, and I'm not making excuses for the Bengals because I actually think I picked the Browns to win this game. But regardless, like Chris mentioned, I did have the Browns as sleeper this year. I truly thought that because I think from top to bottom, this team is loaded. You saw their defense, how incredible they were. You saw Myles Garrett just making a mockery out of the Bengals offensive line, practicing his little crossover before going and pressuring Burrow, and he got right there. I mean, Burrow was absolutely awful. He couldn't get the ball to Jamar Chase. T. Higgins, I think, had 0 catches. Joe Mixon, they tried to give him the ball a lot, and he only had like 50 yards. That was rough. Their defense didn't look like they could stop the Browns' offense. Deshaun Watson, I don't think he played great, but he played obviously good enough to win. But
Passable. Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but he had a lot of passes that just like skipped towards the receiver. Like the passes he was missing the same exact way. They were like bounce passes to receivers. Like he wasn't missing them high, wasn't missing to the left or right. It was just like a skip pass right to the receiver. It was weird. I don't know if it was because of the weather or just like rust. I don't know what it was, but I think he was running the ball very well. He used his legs often. He scored a rushing touchdown, I believe. I think Nick Chubb was great. The Browns definitely look like they made a statement in that game and look like a team that's going to be hard to beat in this division. As for the Bengals, some people are panicking. I'm not saying a lot of people are panicking, but some people are panicking, but I don't see why. The Bengals are going to be fine. They're too talented. Joe Burrow's too good. Some people are kind of blaming his calf as a problem, but I don't think his calf is an issue at all because they wouldn't have signed him to a mega extension if they weren't 100% clear on his calf issue. So I think the Browns definitely proved me right, proved a lot of people right that are believing in them, and for the Bengals, they'll be fine.
All right. Let's move on to another notable game. The Rams defeated the Seattle Seahawks, fellas, 30-13. I think we all had the Seahawks winning this game, and man, were we wrong. I gotta say, I mean, we'll talk about the Seahawks because I think I'm more. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who I'm. I don't know if I'm more impressed by the Rams or more disappointed in the Seahawks. But Stafford was on one this game, man. He looked incredible. I know he had no touchdown passes, but he did have 334 yards, 24 for 38. Bro, he looked like old Stafford. Not the one last year. He looked like he was ready to go, and um, I think yeah. So Puka Nakua and Tutu Atwell, like they showed up, bro. And I think it's important for like the Rams to kind of discover like possible weapons they could have without Cooper Cup because Cooper Cup is in the IR, I think, right now. He's out for a few weeks, I believe. I don't even know. Yeah, it's an undisclosed amount of time, but I think in doing so, in doing so, in Cooper Cup being out, you find like these hidden gems that you have, and that could be sometimes good and bad because sometimes is it fool's gold until Cooper Cup comes in, but I think they just need to manage until Cooper Cup comes back, right? And I think you wonder like how they're gonna fare without when Cooper Cup comes back, but I do think for them, I mean, to beat the Seattle Seahawks, who we have as like a top tier NFC team, a division rival, and they're relatively thin, right? The Rams roster wise, if you think about it, especially on offense. Wow, this is a statement performance, and I mean Stafford was he impressed the shit out of me. And I mean, look, let's not jump into conclusions. I think we all kind of agreed that maybe it's best if the Rams don't do well this season because I know they won the championship, but it's not looking too hot. Like you don't want to be in that purgatory realm. But hey, if they could somehow manage to stay decent and be a legitimate wild card team, by all means, if you get this Stafford and you get Cooper Cup eventually, and obviously you have Aaron Donald, and these two, young pieces step up, like okay, we're building with something, and the old line looked pretty decent, So I was impressed by the Rams. Incredibly disappointed by the Seahawks. Incredibly disappointed, man. Geno Smith, one touchdown, 112 yards. I just it wasn't JSN didn't look too great. DK did his thing. DK did DK things, but I do think they neutralized DK a little bit in the second half. Um, Tyler Lockett, man, oof, 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 oof. Just relatively disappointing throughout because I think in the first half the Seahawks looked decent, and I was like, okay, it looked like it was going their way. I'm just like, all right, the Seahawks will just close out in the second half. No, man, Rams beat them, and it was a disappointing performance for the Seahawks because I have high expectations for them because I think the roster top to bottom is stacked. Geno Smith had a resurgence last year. Yeah, Pete Carroll, really good coach. So I don't know. I think Jerk, you said it like the first 2 or 3 weeks for good teams don't matter. It's I feel like week 2 and week 3 for some teams are kind of make or break. And I'm not pushing the panic button for the Seahawks, right away, but I do think we need to get shit together now because I think this L to the Rams is a big eye opener, right? And they kind of have to lock in for the next 2 weeks because we're just like, okay, we can't fall in a hole right now. We can't fall in a hole, especially to the divisional rivals. So, Dame, what'd you make of this game?
I was extremely surprised by the result. I mean, I have the Seahawks winning that division, so to see them perform that bad was very surprising. Geno Smith didn't look good. Their defense didn't look good. I mean, Matthew Stafford ate them up. And big credit to Matthew Stafford because a lot of people, obviously, he won the Super Bowl. People are super high on him. And then a super disappointing season last year. People are like, the Rams should trade him. He should retire. He's just not good anymore. Like, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league now. He just overpaid, da-da-da. And he came out and absolutely sling the ball. And this was without Cooper Cup. That's the most impressive part. And he did it with a rookie receiver and Tutu Atwell. Both had like 150 yards. It was nuts. He had no running game at all. Cam Akers had like 20 rushes for like 30 yards. I mean, he really had not a lot to work with, and he just made things happen. He was slinging it over and over and over again, making big plays. and they didn't win a close game. They won this game convincingly too. So it's gonna be interesting to see if he could keep this up going forward. If this Rams team is actually for real, and it's also interesting to see with the Seahawks. I mean, are they gonna be this bad throughout the season? Because people have high expectations for them too. Whether they're gonna win the division or not, a lot of people have them in the playoffs. They made the playoffs last year, or barely missed it, and they improved the team this offseason. Geno Smith another season under that system, adding Njigga Smith next to Lockett and DK. They added to our defense as well. So it's going to be a very interesting result to this game for these two teams, and going to be very interesting to see how both these teams go forward, because this was a result that nobody really expected.
Yeah, I think, Chris, to the question you had kind of asked at the beginning of, do you lean more towards being worried about the Seahawks or impressed with the Rams? I'll say worried about the Seahawks. I just think the jury's out on the Rams. I don't expect that. Like, again, it's tough to say because the NFC is so weak, so maybe they could be in the conversation at the end, but I just don't see the Rams as a legitimate threat to any, like, the balance of power in the NFC for this upcoming season. The Seahawks are supposed to be that. I have them, personally speaking, like, before week one, before the season started, as a candidate for the NFC Championship game. They very much have that level of talent there, but it was a tough week one, to say the very least. I just think the defense was completely overwhelmed, and they didn't expect to be overwhelmed like that. For whatever reasons that is, they need to figure it out. Point blank. Like you said, Chris, when I say that the first couple weeks don't matter for good teams, I'm talking about the bona fide good teams that we know. I'm talking about the Chiefs. I'm talking about the Chargers. I'm talking about the Bengals. Like, I'm talking about the best. I'm talking about the Eagles. I'm talking about the best of the best whenever I say that. For a team like the Seahawks, which, yes, we have the high expectations of them, but like Dame said, they made the NFC wildcard spot as a 7 seed last year. Like, that's good in theory, yes, but they need to prove to us that they deserved all these expectations. So it is going to be a big next couple weeks here coming up. And it's funny that we're going to get Seahawks Lions this week, because this was a game that kind of showed off last season that both teams' defenses were really bad. This is going to be a game that this season I think is going to be a real yard mark for both clubs of what are the Lions really compared to last season? What are the Seahawks compared to last season? And can both of these teams, which people had higher expectations for the Lions last year than the Seahawks, and now people have high expectations for both of them. These are two teams that need to prove that they've warranted the expectations. Somebody has to win this game in theory. So I'm very much more on the side of, all right, Seattle, you got to prove something here. You gotta show out the next couple weeks why you deserve the hype, and I think, relatively speaking, they will. I think they just ran into this is gonna be funny. Ran into a Rams team that was motivated to come out with a win here. I just don't have high expectations for the Rams going into the rest of the season, but Seattle, you do got to do something, because I think the first 4 or 5 games of the season is when you can kind of tell what a team's got or not. So Seattle's got to prove it.
All right. Let's move on over to the game of the week, in my opinion at least. Dolphins Chargers. Dolphins win 36-34. Fellas, this was an absolute shootout. Man, what is it with the Chargers, bro? Jesus. The Clippers. Literally the Clippers of the NFL. This just went to the wire. Tua, I mean, we need to have a discussion on Tua. And I understand Tyreek Hill makes a lot of people look good, but like Tua, like he gets the job done, bro. 28 for 45, 466 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tyreek Hill had, I believe, 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just smoked dudes in fantasy, by the way. On the other hand, Justin Herbert, 23 for 33, 229 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Austin Eckler had 117 yards, 1 touchdown. This was a shootout. It was a really fun game, and it was kind of a breath of fresh air, especially because the 1 o'clock slate of games were just kind of meh. This one really like shifted the tide, and it's like, all right, finally got like a really fun game here. But I don't know, man. I think when it comes to both teams, I think the Chargers, it's kind of the same old shit, bro. It's just like they're a really talented team from top to bottom. On paper, they should be a Super Bowl contender, bro. But I mean, look, Mike McDaniel had a really good heads up play at the end of the first half, I believe.
I forget what it was, but it's not a heads up play by McDaniel. It's a boneheaded play by a Chargers guy. You had a Dolphins receiver in triple coverage. You didn't have to put your hands on him. You just had to make sure he didn't get the ball. Like, all due respect, that's not a Mike McDaniel play call.
He did something though. He did. I forgot what it was.
No. But if Chris, I know the play you're talking about. If you look at that play, that is solely because the Chargers.
Yeah, it was more Chargers than it was
made a
Dolphins.
mistake, and like that's what I was gonna get. Like, I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but Like, the Chargers are going to find a way to lose these games in any way, shape, or form, because it was that, and it was J.C. Jackson just getting lit the hell up by Tyreek Hill for the first 2.5 quarters before they benched him. That's supposed to be is he the highest paid corner in the league, or like top 3 highest paid corner in the league that you took from free agency? Missed 8 games last season due to injury. Like, the Chargers just find a way to lose in every which way, and for the offense to look as underwhelming as it was, like, you're supposed to be better than Lombardi was last season if you're Kellen Moore. I could not tell the difference. Like, if you would have told me that Lombardi was still calling the play somehow, I would have been convinced, because the whole thing with Lombardi last season was he actually didn't like Herbert airing it out as much as he normally would. It felt like Kellen Moore was just going to let Herbert dink and dunk. Why are we limiting our the franchise quarterback here? Come on, like, I don't know. Like, did the Dolphins deserve to win this? Absolutely, but this was just more of a Chargers are going to charger their way with a game. Like, it was this. This was a terrible thing all around for LA. Like, that's just pathetic.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy to think about because like the Chargers have all the talent in the world and just like I mean these are the games you have to beat these teams and I'm not no like they like if you want to show that you're a top tier team like you have to beat a team like the Dolphins who are kind of in like a similar position to you, right? It's just like we have the roster to make a run here. It's just it's weird. These are both this is your conference rival. Like they're both AFC teams, right? And like you guys both have electrifying offenses and it basically was that. Like it was just basically a shootout. It was an offensive, juggernaut of a game. But I mean, shout out to the Dolphins. I think we've all kind of agreed that like when healthy, I think the Dolphins. We all think the Dolphins could actually make it to the Super Bowl. That they're that good, and I'm a big fan of Mike McDaniel, man. I think he's one of the top coaches in the NFL, and I think the team has kind of embraced him, and he's embraced like this nerd like persona of his that he has. And I think the team is all like they're all with him, man. They'd ride or die for him, and I think it's awesome. But you're right. I mean, that play at the end of the first half was mostly the Chargers just charging it up, and I think that's what cost them at the end. Like if that play doesn't happen, then I think we might have a different result. But boy, oh boy, did Tyreek Hill light them up, man. It's just Waddle was a little underwhelming, but I think if Tyreek Hill's going off like that, you can take a step back. It's fine. I don't know if Waddle's hurt or not. I think did I read something like that? Might have, but someone could confirm. But man, it's just the Dolphins are not a team to play with. They're not a team to play with. I think this is. Does this say more about the Chargers or Dolphins? I don't know. It's just like what did we find out about the Chargers that's new? It's just like they're gonna fuck up the way they always do. But again, I still that doesn't make me think otherwise that they're gonna be a wild card team. I just think they're too talented. But for the Dolphins, hey man, right now as of now, I think they're the front runner to win that division, the AFC East. That's in my humble opinion. And Tua deserves a lot of credit, man. I know he gets a lot of shit but he shows up. He shows up, and he showed up this week, and he's gonna go against the Patriots next week. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But he's 5-0 against Bill Belichick. So yeah. Jerg, I mean, did you get all your thoughts across, or do you have anything to add?
I kind of did for the most part. I'll just finish with one last note, Chris. Like,
Mhm.
you kind of mentioned how big of a game this was for the Chargers. This is a team that I know you're saying that they could win the AFC East, but they could still be a wild card team.
Yeah.
You're like, this is a massive loss to have, because conference record and similar opponents is two of the things that decide tiebreakers. And to lose this game the way you did is just a poor performance, man. Like, Brandon Staley's job is on the line this season, by hook or by crook. By hook or by crook, his job is on the line this season, and this was not a good opening game to 2023.
Jerg, what for Brandon Staley's sake? What saves his job? A wild card round win, a
AFC
divisional round win?
Championship game appearance. AFC Championship game
Really?
appearance.
Okay.
Justin Herbert is the talent at quarterback that 20 other teams. I know Dame has his things with him, but 20 other teams would take Justin Herbert in a heartbeat. The Jets included right now. They would take Justin Herbert. Like, they would take Justin Herbert. You need to make the AFC Championship game with this kind of talent. You just have to. Trevor Lawrence has a playoff win before Justin Herbert, and the Jaguars had Urban Meyer for a goddamn year. That's pathetic. Urban Meyer should set a franchise back 5 years, but because Trevor Lawrence and because Doug Peterson is so stable, and
Yeah.
because Trevor Lawrence is so good, they were able to make it up in a season's time. And the AFC South is weak. Like, they were able to make it up in a season. There's no excuse for the Los Angeles Chargers to not have an AFC Championship game appearance with Justin Herbert. Like, it's just not an excuse, especially because one or two other teams that we thought were AFC powers aren't looking so great to start the season. This is prime opportunity for you to go and make a run and try to have a high seed this season. But again, the Chargers are going to charge her. And Brandon Staley is going to be the first one to go if things don't go well this season.
Yeah. Dame?
Yeah, this game didn't surprise me at all. We knew the potential the Dolphins had. Like you mentioned, you think it's a team that can make a Super Bowl. Everyone knows the talent this team has, from Waddle to Hill, obviously Tua. The question mark with them is always going to be Tua's health. If Tua stays healthy, these are the performances you're going to get most of the games, and this is how dangerous the team's going to be. But this needs to happen for 17 plus weeks, including the playoffs, if they want to win a Super Bowl. And it's just to be determined and to be seen if Tua is able to stay healthy. Their defense is good. Their offensive line is good. Obviously, they have the weapons. It's all going to come down to Tua. But on the other hand, I'm not surprised, Justin Herbert, man. I've been telling the world that this guy has no clutch bone in his body at all. He is allergic to winning big games. He's allergic to a big moment. He just can't do it. I still believe he's a top 5, top 7 quarterback in the league, and I'd love to have him on my team. However, he just isn't built for the moment. And obviously that's something you could develop, and eventually a lot of the times these quarterbacks, once they win one, that's when they kind of get it rolling. But to this point, Justin Herbert still hasn't done it. He has 0 playoff wins. He has a huge playoff collapse. This is a big week 1 game. He can't get it done. He can't beat the Chiefs. It's just a recurring theme, and obviously a lot of people are just going to blame Brandon Staley, and I agree. I think he should have been canned last season. I don't think he's the right coach for this team. But Justin Herbert deserves a lot of the blame as well, because he, although obviously has the great physical attributes, makes some great throws, and has great first 3 quarters in a lot of the games. But when it comes to closing out games and making the throws in the place he needs to make to close out games, I just haven't seen it from him throughout his entire career in these big games. So hopefully, I truly do hope that he gets over the hump of just not being able to be that clutch guy and the guy who gets it done in big moments, because he's super talented and he's super fun to watch, and I want him to be great because he's better for the league. But I just still haven't seen it. Until then, I'm going to keep bashing him. My agenda's still going to continue to grow. But yeah, I'm not surprised by anything that happened in this game, because the Dolphins are capable of that, and the Chargers just same old shit, different year.
All right, let's move on over to another game in which Dame will continue his victory lap. The Green Bay Packers defeat the Chicago Bears 30-20. For the Packers, Jordan Love looked like a starting quarterback in the NFL. 15 for 27, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Aaron Jones went off this game. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson was out, so Romeo Doubs, I think, picked up the pieces there in terms of what they were lacking with Christian Watson's absence. But he looked great. He had 2 touchdowns. I think Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson and Jordan Love, what a trio to have for the Green Bay Packers. Like, you have a quarterback and you have 2 wide receivers that he can grow with, and they all look like studs right now. I understand it's the Bears right now for the Packers, but hey, man, this is again a divisional rival, and some people had high expectations for the Bears, and the fact that they kind of took care of business, like they beat them 30-20, like it was kind of like they silenced them, man. And man, Packers, not a team to scoff at. And Jair Alexander, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, shut down DJ Moore. Wow. I know that because I have DJ Moore in fantasy. But I think this says, again, it says a lot about both teams. And I think for the Bears, this, to me, like this season it's gonna tell a lot for the future of this franchise. And so I think me and Jerk were higher on Justin Fields than Dame is. I think a lot of people, I do think the quote unquote MVP talk of Justin Fields this season was way overblown. I just didn't. It's like, no, guys, come on. At the end of the day, it's the Bears, and I don't know. I didn't buy into that. I think I like Justin Fields a lot more than most. And I think Dame doesn't like Justin Fields as much as people like him. So I get it, but this is an important year, and he's got weapons now. They've made some improvements to the offensive line. The defense should be better. You got him like a wide receiver 1 in DJ Moore. But I'm like, what do we do? I'm disappointed now, bro. It's just like It's kind of with the Chargers. Like, we get the same old Bears here, bro. It's just 20 points and what's supposed to be an improved team and a team that have I'm hopeful for because I like Justin Fields and I think it's the same argument Dame would have with like Justin Herbert. Like you want Justin Fields to be good because he's an electrifying player and be good for the league. And Chicago Bears, for as bad as they are, that's like a marquee. That's a marquee city, Chicago, bro. And you just want them to be a bit better. But again, it's the situation we have for the Seahawks. Like a loss or two, like week 2 and week 3 might define the rest of the Bears season. Look, they have the Panthers first round pick next year. That might turn out to be really good, but it's just like you wonder. I understand we're blowing this out of proportion. It's week 1, but you kind of wonder like what's gonna happen with Justin Fields if this season doesn't end up the way they thought it would. What do they do with Justin Fields? Do you replace him possibly? You got to fire Eberflus. Like I just don't think he's a good coach. Based on week 1, same old Bears, and I'm disappointed because I thought they would be a bit better. I mean, who do they play? Who do they play in week 2? I think they play the Buccaneers. So
Yep.
Buccaneers look good against the Vikings, so it's not going to be an easy game for them. But man, disappointed to say the least. Dame, what'd you make of this game?
Again, not surprised. Justin Fields super hyped up this offseason. Going to be great for fantasy. I don't think he's that good of an NFL quarterback. He threw the ball 37 times, only 216 yards. He averaged like 5.5 yards per attempt, which is disgusting. He had a pick, he had a fumble. He had 1 touchdown, QBR of a 21, which is disgusting. And this is in a pretty big game against your division rival. Aaron Rodgers obviously leaves the Packers, leaves the division. You think you have a chance to win the division, and you just lose to a guy with Jordan Love who hasn't started a game in like 3 years since he got drafted. You bring in DJ Moore, and he has like 2 catches. You don't get to utilize him. You don't give him the ball. Those Q went in the preseason. You got to throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage, and he went 85 yards all by himself. But it's not going to happen in the regular season. These teams actually play their starters, and teams actually try, and they're just not going to let you get away with that. So, do I think it's a lost season for the Bears? No. I think they'll be better than they were this game. I think Justin Fields. I'm not going to even say he's going to be better. I think this is exactly what he is. He's just a little below average quarterback. So just flip it to the Packers side. Extremely impressive. I personally didn't have opinion on Jordan Love because I had no idea what he was going to be. But he was very impressive in this game. 245 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He distributed the ball everywhere. His number 1 receiver in Christian Watson was out. He got the ball to Romeo Dobbs. He got the ball to his tight ends. Got the ball to Aaron Jones, whether it was in the passing game or running game. I think Aaron Jones was actually the leading receiver. Yeah, he was with 86 yards. He was a leading receiver. They ran the ball well. Their defense obviously played well, like Chris mentioned. Jair Alexander is one of the best corners in the league. A lot of people don't like him because he talks a lot of trash. He's kind of cocky about it, but kind of needs to be as a corner. Corners is extremely hard position, especially with the rules in the NFL where you just can't even breathe on a wide receiver. And he does it as well as basically anybody in the league. So I'm very impressed by the Packers. If Jordan Love can continue this, they're just going to be another force to be reckoned with in this division. They're going to be a problem for the Lions and the Vikings at the top. But, yeah, I mean, my agenda grows. I'm expecting more of this from Justin Fields and the Bears, and I'm very excited to see what happens with the Packers going forward, too.
This is one of those games that has birthed new and intriguing looks for teams for the rest of the month, let's say. Like, again, first 4 to 5 weeks is when we really start to get like a feel on teams to an extent. And I think with the Green Bay Packers, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of consistency that they could gather with their offense. I think that was a very good game played by Jordan Love. I will give all the credit in the world for that first game because on this podcast, on several networks for that, I have not been high on Jordan Love in any way, shape, or form. And 1 week isn't going to deter me from that, but he did look really good. I will say this about the Bears, very disappointing performance. I think one thing, because even for myself, the only reason I thought the Bears could have been a modicum of good this season, and when I say good, I mean like maybe 1 or 2 games below 500, was that they play a weaker schedule because of what they were last season. Because let's not forget, at the end of the day, this was the team that had the first overall pick last season. And it's very difficult for teams to go from worst to even second in a division sometimes. Like let's say at best what the Bears could have been this season. And I say at best because I don't think they could have been much better than that, and I don't think they were going to be that anyways. But moving on, this is still a team that was the worst team in the league last season, right? And I think we kind of overrated what maybe some of the changes and additions were, and I think we overrated the fact that aside from DJ Moore, there is absolutely not much else for Justin Fields to really throw to. Even Cole Kmet wasn't really doing that much, I think, for the Bears. So just an utter just ass whooping, let's say, like older brother lauded over younger brother yet again. The Packers, it does not matter who the quarterback is, they will find a way to beat the Bears. And poor Chicago, if they have to deal with 3 straight Green Bay Packers quarterbacks just, lauding over their graves. That is still TBD. These teams do face again, I think, in like a month and a half or two. So it'll be interesting to say the least. But yeah, very disappointing by the Bears. Very disappointed in Justin Fields in that first game. I think he's definitely better than that. But you gotta take that next step here. And you gotta say, dang, Matt Eberflus, and the bad coaching that you got to show us a little bit of something. Because at the end of the day, great quarterbacks are able to overcome bad coaching every once in a while. I haven't seen Justin Fields do that too much with his arm. So you got to show us that you're a better passer than that at the end of the day. Because until then, like, Dame's going to kind of have a point. This is just a running back that they're letting throw passes sometimes. Like, he's not he's just not a good passer. Dame, back me up. Like, he's not that.
No, he's right. Yeah, you're right. I know.
He has not been a good passer in his NFL career. He just has not. I hate to say that about the kid because I love Justin Fields coming out the draft, but he's just not. Like, he's an enigma as your quarterback, and you can't have that if you're hoping to be like a team building up. And you said what the future could be, Chris? The future is if the Chicago Bears are not at least, let's say, 7-win team this season, then the GM might be gone, the coach will be gone, and Justin Fields might be gone. Because there's a couple solid quarterbacks coming out this draft. Like, we knew who 1 and 2 would be, but there are some quarterbacks early on in the college football season that are making names for themselves. Like, these kids could be drafted pretty high up. Like, there's always 1 or 2 quarterbacks that start the season as like 2nd or 3rd round picks and become 1st round picks by the time the draft rolls around. This could be one of those drafts, and there's going to be a couple teams that are looking to a new signal caller. So there that is.
Yeah, they got enough draft capital to make like decent decisions at least. Like they'll have. I don't know, man. That they stole that Panthers pick, man. I can't believe the Panthers gave that shit up. But whatever. Let's talk about the last 2 games that involved the New York teams. Let's go with the Giants and the Cowboys game first. Cowboys beat the Giants 40-0. Fellas, I think we're all in consensus that we have the Cowboys as like the bottom of tier 1 of teams in the NFC. We have the Eagles and the Niners, and then it's basically the Cowboys. But man, like the Cowboys, this is what like their roster. Look, on paper, I think they should be an NFC Championship team ceiling, but it's the Cowboys, so I got to refrain from making that prediction because the Cowboys are always going to cowboy. But they did look good. The offense didn't need to be there. Like, they honestly didn't need to do much because the Giants look so ass. Like,
they could have won that game if they punted every possession.
Yeah. Dak didn't need to do much. Pollard didn't need to do much. CD didn't need to do much. They did, yeah. Like they kind of won this game in the first quarter. But yeah, I think the story is mostly about the Giants because they have yet to score this season, just based on facts. They haven't scored yet, not even a field goal. And it's crazy because like their first drive, I'm like, moving the ball. Daniel Jones is running, typical Giants. And I was like, all right, looks good. We might have a good game here. And this is an important game for the Giants because it's just like, yeah, there's hype for the Cowboys, there's hype for the Eagles, but like we made the playoffs last year, right? And Daniel Jones got that big fat contract, whether he deserved it or not, to some of the pundits. And to us, dude, we didn't think he deserved that big of a contract, but he got it. And he's won a playoff game before. And he's kind of shifted the narrative on him. And good for him, because he was going to be out of a starting job with like before last year's performance. But Darren Waller's there, Saquon Barkley's there. They got that wide receiver Hyatt in the draft. The defense is great. Their offensive line, I thought, would be somewhat better than what we saw. So the Giants were a team that I couldn't really like properly point my finger to because I just didn't know what I would be getting with their team. I thought they'd be a little bit better just because like you have another offensive option, Darren Waller, and he's been killing training camp from what I heard. But he did have a hamstring injury. So like I just didn't know how to properly analyze the Giants. And man, it's week 1, but they're in that category of teams in which you need to get your shit together early on, or the season might be clipped. Especially because your division has 2 of the favorites in the conference. So 0 points. I was just stunned. And obviously, the offensive line got chewed the fuck out by the Cowboys defense. The Cowboys, that's one thing. Their defense is legit. And that's one aspect of their team that I could just count on to be consistent throughout the season. So Cowboys, they did their job. Just think this says more about the Giants, to be honest. It's not looking too good. They're lucky because they have the Cardinals next. I'm a little concerned about Darren Waller's hamstring injury because apparently this might be a lingering thing. You've struck gold with the schedule in the next week because now you could kind of get things going. The Cardinals suck, obviously, but now you could kind of get your offense in a rhythm here. And then, of course, I don't know where they play week 3, but they got lucky with the schedule because week 2, you could right some wrongs here. But man, did they get chewed out by the Cowboys. Holy shit. I was just surprised because a Brian Dable team, you'd expect them to come out with more energy, and they just looked like they didn't want to be there, and I was stunned. I was legitimately stunned. I didn't think they would win, but I think we'd have a decent game at least. But Jared, what'd you make of this game?
Chris, real quick, do you want to hear the Giants games after this Cardinals one?
Yeah.
So I'll just go. These are the next 4 games after the Cardinals game for the Giants: the 49ers,
Loss,
the Seahawks,
loss,
the Dolphins,
loss.
and the Bills.
I don't know about the Bills anymore, but that's okay. But 3 of 4 are unlikely to win, in my opinion.
Not great.
That's not good. Wow.
Not great to say the very least. It's funny that Dame kept mentioning narratives throughout these topics because finally one of my narratives came true. I was saying the entire time that the Giants paying Daniel Jones to me gave me so many thoughts of when the Jaguars paid Blake Bortles. And was I not right? Dude, he didn't get a passing yard until after the 2 interceptions. That was bad.
That's nuts. Nuts.
That was this is here's my analysis of this game, and I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm sure you guys have seen this stat already. I'm sure maybe some of the people listening to this have already, but in case you have not, and in case this is the first time you hear it, God bless. The Giants' first game of the season, they lost 40-0 to the Cowboys. They got outsacked 7-0. They lost the turnover margin 3-0. A field goal was blocked in return for a touchdown, and they threw a pick 6. That has never happened to another team in a season, all of those occurrences. That'll happen to the Giants in 1 game. Get wrecked, dude. My God. And some people were questioning the Cowboys going into this season, and we're thinking the Giants were better than that. Nah, bruh. Not a thing. It's actually funny. One of my friends who's a Giants fan, he texted me. He's like, so I'm going to cheer for the Jets and Bills this season because as a New York sports fan, I cannot in good conscience root for the Giants after whatever the heck that was supposed to be on Sunday night. So yeah, that was just bad overall, ultimately speaking. But no, it was not good. Do you enjoy that Daniel Jones contract, New York? Because it ain't going to look that much better. So yeah, that's really about it. It was just bad. Just awful.
Yeah, it was a disgusting performance by the Giants. Obviously the Cowboys look great, but I think it wasn't fully on them. I think a lot of it was just the Giants are that bad, and a lot of these mistakes are just because of them. I mean, they looked great on the first drive, and then once the field goal attempt got blocked, everything went to shit. They moved the ball down the field pretty well on their opening drive. And, I mean, I was watching the game with a couple Giants fans, and every single play, they were getting up and cheering like, "Oh, we're so back! Our team is so good." And then after
I know what he's talking about too. That's
after the field goal got blocked, not another word was said for the rest of the game. It was fucking great, and I was just laughing the whole time because I wasn't getting mad that they were getting hype. I was just I don't know why they're getting hype. It's just one drive, and then fuck it, they're gonna be up 3-0. The Cowboys are still gonna come back to win. Yeah, all right.
Oh, they came back.
Blocked, they got blocked, ran it back for 7, and never looked back. They won 40-0. If I told you the over under in this game was 42.5, and the Cowboys would score 40 points, you would be like, "Yo, the over is gonna cash, right?" It didn't. I mean, I didn't take it, but one of my friends asked me if I think it was over or under, and I said over. I mean, if the Giants literally just kicked the fucking field goal, the over would have hit. If I told you the Cowboys are scoring 40 points, you'd say the total score is going to be over like 50, not 42.5. But regardless, Cowboys look good. The defense, I think, is their strong part of their team going forward. Obviously they have a good offense with Dak, CD, Brandon Cooks, and Tony Pollard. But I think this defense is one of the best in the league. I think it rivals the Niners and the Jets as the best defenses in the league. Micah Parsons, in my opinion, is the best defensive player in the league. I know a lot of people going to say Nick Bosa, but I think Nick Bosa is strictly a pass rusher. I think Micah could kind of draw back into coverage. He could chase down rushers, guys in space, something that Nick Bosa I don't think is as good as Micah in. So this defense is going to be, I think, what drives this team. And then at the end of the day, whether as far as they go, will be Dak. Even though I did just say their strength is their defense, but I think that's what kind of runs their team. But the one that could take him over the top is Dak. And that's still to be determined because, 40-0 win, I guess, looks good on the quarterback, but Dak literally didn't do much this game. He didn't have to do much. It's not like he played a bad game, but he just wasn't required to do much. So I think this week is going to be a big test against the Jets with that defense. So, yeah, but I'm impressed with the Cowboys. I'm not surprised with the Giants, at all. This is what you got yourself into by paying Daniel Jones $40+ million a year.
All right, let's move on to the other New York team that actually, superseded expectations given the circumstances. The Jets defeat the Bills 22-16, and a lot of storylines with this game. You guys, should we talk about? Let's talk about the Bills first, actually, because I think the Jets have there's more of a discussion with that one. The Bills lose this one. So just to kind of recap what happened, it was after Bills, I think, did they get a... Yeah, so they didn't... First drive, they don't score. Jets defense, prevents them from scoring. Then, of course, the Jets come out. After, I believe it was 4 plays. Was it 4 plays? And then...
It was the 4th play when it happened.
Yeah, so 4 plays, Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. No one knew what the injury was, but then he just fell down, and then he got helped off, and then went to the blue tent, and then he got carted off, and we're just like, okay, what the fuck, man? Granted, this was on 9/11, and Aaron Rodgers, brought the USA flag out, and it was... Dude, MetLife was nuts, bro. Holy shit, was that stadium packed and loud, and just the aura was insane, and we're just like, dude, holy shit. You felt the energy, and, you couldn't help yourself but to get hyped, right? There was no other way to get that game that just it forced you to get hyped. You're just holy shit, what an energy, man. And just like that, it just dies out because Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. Zach Wilson, who was the backup, is now starting. And man, this game, there is just oh shit. Once Aaron Rodgers got hurt, you're just okay, the Bills are just gonna take it. But no, the Jets defense, in my opinion, it has a claim to, they're top 3, I think, but they could arguably be the best defense. I think they give the Niners a run for their money. But holy shit, did they make it uncomfortable for Josh Allen? Well, the Jets defense they won them this game. They're gonna be the reason why they win any other games that they win this season. So, but we had kind of expected that. We knew the bread and butter was the defense, and Lord Jesus, let me just tell you, Bills here. Let me tell you Josh Allen's stats: 29 for 41, 236 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. So Haley Steinfeld's boyfriend really fucked up this game, and it was so glorious to see as a Jets fan and a Haley Steinfeld enthusiast. But it was, what the fuck is Josh Allen doing with some plays? It is absurd how this man has not corrected his flaws, bro. We have to have a discussion about Josh Allen. I think, the jig is up, and I think people are starting to pay attention. The constant trying to be Superman, the trying to throw home run passes, him trying to jump over, the defense, even though he's yards short. This is what the Bills told to do less of, and he still did it. And I know there was the whole Stephon Diggs situation that occurred this offseason. I do think the fact that Allen, and maybe you guys could correct me if I'm wrong or if you think otherwise, but I do think the fact that Allen looks for him most, and I know Stephon Diggs could be an emotional human being sometimes, and that could lead to some type of rift. But I do think the fact that like you're kind of primarily focused on wanting to have Diggs happy isn't necessarily good for your offense. I know he's your best player, but your best wide receiver, but it forces the offense to be stagnant. And I think like I mean Sauce got cooked up this game. I'm not gonna lie, he got cooked up, and you know I thought. I mean, he still is one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL, but man, Stephon Diggs really, did a number on him. But he it's just like I don't know. Like the Bills' offense is so stagnant because I just think Josh Allen wants to find Diggs, and whether that's because you want him to like be happy most of the time, or you don't trust your other wide receivers, it's a problem. And again, we had our questions about the Bills. We had our questions about the Bills going into the season, and after this game, again, it's week one. They're a good team. I think they'll figure it out. I don't know, man. Like you can't fuck around with the Dolphins being as good as they are now. So I don't know, man. That's a team that needs to figure shit out quickly. And they have the Raiders in week two, and I think they're going to win that game. We all have the Bills winning that game, but you can't fuck around because if they lose to the Raiders, whoo, discussions will be had. So obviously the topic of discussion is Josh Allen. For the Jets, what a performance. The defense obviously wins the game. Jordan White had 3 picks. Phenomenal performance all around. Zach Wilson, so obviously Aaron Rodgers is the big discussion, but Zach Wilson had to honestly step up under some pretty difficult circumstances because the adrenaline and energy of that stadium just died as soon as they knew Rodgers got hurt. And I thought for, the circumstances given, he did well. I think he just managed. I mean, there were a few Zach Wilson plays that like we're so used to at this point, but I thought he did well. I mean, that Garrett Wilson was a catch of the year so far, and I think it's going to be catch of the year for a few weeks, to be honest, because that was nuts. And what a win. It was I honestly like you didn't know what to think about the direction of the team going forward, but you're just like the fact that they won it the way they did, you're just like, fuck yeah, man, as a Jets fan. It was so nice to beat the Bills and just the way they did it. That touchdown, like the way they ended the game is just you can't script a better ending than that because I think like it was Avery Gibson. Anyone who's watched Hard Knocks, you guys know the clip where like they fuck around with him and just like, yo, you're on the team, and then he wins the game for them at the end. Like it was so phenomenal to see. I'm so proud of them. But again, the dark cloud. It was just crazy how like you win an exhilarating game, but there's still a dark cloud. You just know it's gonna rain because I mean Zach Wilson's their quarterback going forward. He knows the offense. I think the best decision is to have him start. I do think you should trade or look into like a backup veteran quarterback. But I do think the best option going forward is to like have Zach be the quarterback of this offense. Like everyone's familiar with him. I know he's not the best, obviously, but I just think it's just they're gonna try. I don't know. I just think it's best, and I just think for the vibes, quote unquote, for the team, um, just have him start as quarterback, and I think they all kind of agreed to that. Honestly, if Rodgers could like after a few weeks, because I don't think he could be there physically in the sidelines, have him like pull up like week 3 or week 4 headset. I think him being there would be really good for Zach Wilson. Now you just hope that there's going to be some improvement from the last 2 years. I mean, I think there will, but not to a point where he's just going to be like, yo, what the fuck, what a leap he made. But yeah, I don't know what the Jets do going forward. I think trading for a veteran QB, you got to be cautious with it. I mean, the options suck so bad, bro. Like, I'm sorry. Like Carson Wentz, ew, man. Like I vomited at the options that they were gonna have in terms of like a backup QB. Fellas, what do we make of this game? Obviously, like I kind of talked a lot, but there was a lot of shit regarding the direction of both teams. Dame?
Very emotionally, like a roller coaster game emotionally. I mean, just you see how packed MetLife is with all the introductions. Aaron Rodgers coming out the American flag. I mean, I was getting goosebumps. It was sick. I would have died to be at that game. That atmosphere looked nuts. You stopped Josh Allen to start the game. Did they stop him to start the game? They score.
Yeah, no, they stopped him.
They stopped him, right? So then you get the ball back. I think the first play is a Brees Hall run for like 25 yards, and we're like, yeah, we're back. Very similar to Giants fans to the start of the game. I think he throws the ball away or something like that, and then obviously Dwayne Brown just I don't even want to talk about him. I don't even want to mention his name. But then Aaron Rodgers goes down, and at first, I mean, he's standing there, and then he just goes down, and you're like, he just he sprained his ankle or something. He needs to come out for a play, and then you see him going to the 10. And you're like, okay, maybe he's not coming back the next play. And then you see the cart coming up at the 10, and you see him in a boot driving from the cart to the locker room. And you're like, oh, this isn't good at all. And you just kind of got to focus on the game. And I'm one of the very few, if any, Zach believers left. Do I think he's going to be some megastar? No, but I think he's very capable of winning games in this league. I think he's super talented. I think with him, it's all kind of mental and having the confidence to know how talented he is and being just smart with his throws and his decision making. I think all the players kind of embracing him and saying how confident they are in him, and Robert Saleh just coming straight out and saying that he's their quarterback for the rest of the year. I think that's going to do big for him. As for his performance specifically in this game, I think it was the most impressive performance in his entire career based off the circumstances he has to deal with. Now, granted, it's not he doesn't have many great performances, so the bar's kind of low. But I mean, think about it. Like this entire offseason, he's chilling. I mean, he knows he's the backup. He's just all he's doing is kind of learning from Aaron Rodgers. He's not expecting to play at all. He knows how much everybody loves Aaron Rodgers, how everyone's excited to see Aaron Rodgers play. He's not thinking about starting this game, and I'm sure the Jets probably weren't ready to kind of game plan and put him in the game either. They weren't preparing him to ever come into the game. And obviously Monday Night Football, 9-11 against your division rival, the Bills, and fourth play. And keep in mind, this is Zach Wilson's idol. Like he's said it multiple times, even before Aaron Rodgers was on the Jets, that Aaron Rodgers is the guy he looked up to and modeled his game after. And to see him go down like that, fourth play of the game, and you just have to be thrown right in there. I mean, we know last time Zach Wilson was on primetime was that Jacksonville game on Thursday night where it was absolutely awful, where the Jets has to throw that Make-A-Wish kid at quarterback, Strider, whatever his name was, and it was a disaster. I mean, Zach Wilson just looked like he wasn't ready for bright lights at all. And to be thrown into this fire and, like, all the pressure, he knows it's a packed stadium, everyone's rowdy, everyone knows it just happened to Aaron Rodgers, and to go in there and show the resilience he did, I think it was extremely impressive after the pick. Obviously, the pick was awful. Like, there's no excuse for it. But in previous seasons, you'd see him go to the bench and kind of have his head down and not come out with the same confidence the very next drive. But he came out the next drive and the drives after that would look like he was unaffected by the pick, which is, I think, a huge step going forward for him. And just be able to, I think he made a lot of great plays. Like, if you have to say and count, this offensive line is garbage. He barely had time to throw the ball. And a lot of people are talking about, oh, here he goes running back 20 yards trying to avoid a sack and whatever the case may be. He has to do that or he's going to get sacked in 0.2 seconds. Like, he's trying to make plays. He threw some darts to Garrett Wilson. Obviously, the touchdown to Garrett Wilson was incredible. Catch of the year. I don't think anyone's going to make a better catch in this entire season. I think it's the best catch by any New York wide receiver ever. You know what I'm talking about in contention, but then, so yeah, I'm extremely impressed with Zach Wilson. I think hopefully it's going forward. He kind of builds on this. He builds on his confidence. It's huge. This win was huge for his confidence. Obviously, the biggest win in his career. And let's take note that he owns Josh Allen. I'm pretty sure he's 2-0 against him.
Yep.
So
I don't know if he's 2-0, but I know
he's 2-1 at worst.
Yeah.
At worst, he's 2-1. He owns Josh Allen for the most part. And, I mean, just to quickly mention, this Jets defense is sick. I mean, you saw the 3 picks they had, the pressure they put on Josh Allen. This was all without their, I'd say, second best defensive player not having his greatest game in Sauce. Quinn Williams was a monster on the defensive line. I think he's their best player. Obviously, Whitehead had an incredible game. Their defensive line just has so many people that would come at you, from Quinn Williams, John Franklin Myers, Jermaine Johnson, McDonald, Mike Clemens, who forced the fumble. I mean, this defense just comes at you time and time again with different guys. So I'm very encouraged to what I saw based on the circumstances. Little bit of good news is that we get to keep our first round pick this year.
Yeah.
Because Aaron Rodgers doesn't get to play 70% of the snaps. So that's a good thing. Obviously, I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers than my first round pick, but we lose a second round pick instead. But regardless, got to see the positives in life, you know. But yeah, I'm impressed with the Jets, and I'm not so down on the season as some other Jets fans are.
Jerk, before you go, let's just confirm the facts here. Aaron Rodgers did tear his Achilles and he's out for the season. I think we weren't specific about that. We just said that he was hurt, but yeah, he's out for the season.
I want a little bit more doom and gloom on this podcast when you guys.
Yeah, that I was pretty surprised that it came from Dame, to be honest. But go ahead.
This game was the definition of you've won the battle, but have you lost the
Oh,
war?
you've lost the war.
Like, all due respect, hey, maybe like Dame said, maybe Zach Wilson, from all the knowledge he got to take from Aaron Rodgers in the offseason, hoping that Aaron Rodgers actually spoke to the guy, anything aside from like conspiracy theories and ayahuasca and all that stuff,
And 9/11 maybe.
and that isn't it ironic? But ultimately, it's the fact that yes, you won this game in phenomenal fashion too. And don't worry, I'll get to the Buffalo Bills in a second. You won this game. You start out 1-0, which I think is big. Zach Wilson gets at least a little bit of confidence that you guys were able to get the win, but man, was it ugly. Man, he didn't look great at times. And man, oh man, it's going to be tough considering the Jets have some tough games on the schedule. Like, we were saying the Jets had a tough start to the season with Aaron Rodgers there.
Oh god.
And now that it's Zach Wilson, like, it's going to be a lot of questions to ask. I think one question that did get answered is, yes, the Jets defense is still as good as last season, if not better, you could maybe say. So,
which is nuts, but yeah.
Which really is, and that's going to be the biggest thing for them surviving this season. Let's be real here. At the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers ain't walking through that door in January. We're not going to hear the theme music and say, "By God, that's Aaron Rodgers." It's just not going to happen. Like, Zach Wilson is going to have to carry the ship, or you guys trade for somebody. Who knows? But I think at the end of the day, the defense and the skill position groups of this team, they're going to be so tired by the end of the season trying to figure this out. Because this is going to be a carry job for the ages. If the Jets make the playoffs this season, I don't care. You give Robert Saleh Coach of the Year. There's no reason to expect this team with Zach Wilson should make the playoffs right now. There's just none. So if they do that, props to them. Now, and of course, obviously, it does suck to lose Aaron Rodgers, but like you guys said, you get to just give up a second-round pick. And Rodgers has said he's committed to come back next season, which I think is big and important. The fact that he's not going to let this injury be the end of his career, and he's gonna have a full season of surgery and rehab, full off season of it. Like, it's
gonna be tough though because he is 40 though, Jurg, and that's not a good injury.
Agreed. And that was like, I tweeted about it of like, before it was official. I thought, man, this would be the worst way possible for a Hall of Fame career, one of the top 4, top 5 quarterbacks we've ever seen, to have his career ended not on his terms, but he's going to make the go for it. And I honestly have a lot of respect in the world for it. And for an injury like this, like, you need time on your side to recover from this. So I think Rodgers getting the full season now I think it'll only help him with his rehab. I think he's going to go hard in his rehab. For all we want to say about his antics, Aaron Rodgers puts in the work and he cares. There's a reason why that dude has sculpted just the level of excellence throughout his career that we've only seen 2 to 3 quarterbacks so far all time we could say are better than him, and then maybe one more coming up in Mahomes. Like, I think Mahomes is the only quarterback that's come into this league since Rodgers started that we could say is better than him all time, or at least have a chance to say at the end of it. So there's that. Now, Josh Allen. Buffalo Bills. You want to talk about narratives being proven right here, boys? Did I not say on this show several weeks ago that there was just something about this Buffalo Bills team that just makes you think that they're unable to win the games like this when it goes to overtime, when it's all the adversity, when things are not going their way? The Kansas City Chiefs have won games like this before. The Cincinnati Bengals have definitely won games like this over the last 2 seasons. The Philadelphia Eagles, I'm sure, could win a game like this. But can the Buffalo Bills? The answer is no. Because since they bitched, whined, moaned, and complained to get that overtime rule changed, they've played 2 overtime games. And
0-5, by the way.
And 0-5 overall in Josh Allen's career. But because remember, that Kansas City Chiefs game in the playoffs, they lobbied for the rule to be changed about it.
It's not changed that, right?
No, there was a tweak to it.
I know, but did they change it?
They changed it for the playoffs, I believe.
Because I saw the thing on the bottom, like, okay, so they didn't change it.
But I think they changed it just for the playoffs, yeah.
Okay.
But at the end of it, ultimately, the rule was changed, and they're 0-2 since it happened. I think it's just beautiful poetry in motion. Chris, you said everything.
Josh Allen, another guy that has Justin Herbert syndrome of not having clutch gene in his body.
Why can't it be Josh Allen syndrome? Why gotta be Justin Herbert?
I was gonna say, I think
you're right.
I think it should be the Josh Allen, because Josh Allen was doing this kind of stupid stuff. Remember, this is the guy that threw it to a fullback.
No, but here's the thing. Yeah, Josh Allen is just, I deadass think there's something wrong in his head. He might have early CTE.
Are you deadass or are you just like fucking around?
I don't know, but I actually just think he's stupid because some of the decision making, like, I'm not talking about the interceptions. Do you remember the run that he had
Yeah,
where he decided to dive into 3
he
defenders
decided to go Jeff Hardy on the
when he
defenders.
was
Yeah.
8 yards short of the first down?
That
Like,
was nuts to me.
that was so ridiculous. And, like, this is a common theme throughout his career. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the first time he was in the playoffs against, like, the Texans. And, like,
Yes, he
there
threw
was a
that
time
fucking
he, like,
touchdown.
I
did,
was
like,
just
a
Yeah.
gonna say it.
helicopter backwards throw. Like, he's just not all there in the head. So I think that has parts to play with it. I think Justin Herbert is just straight up not clutch. I don't think he's actually stupid like Josh Allen is.
My man's threw a throw in double coverage to a fullback in the playoffs. And after that, the Bills said, all right, we got to get him a number 1 receiver. Hey, Stephon Diggs. Can we get him Stephon Diggs? To your point about Stephon Diggs, Chris, I think the thing that we have kind of not put out there in the open that I think we need to stop being scared to say, and I'll say it, Stephon Diggs has helped make Josh Allen what he is. Stephon Diggs is the reason that we hold Josh Allen in this regard. If they do not make that Stephon Diggs trade, we do not hold Josh Allen in this regard.
Or the Bills.
Or the Bills. We just don't. Like, Stephon Diggs has made Josh Allen the kind of passer we believe him to be. Because he is so good. Because he is able to catch dang near everything. You know, when he's not pushing a corner in the back. He gets dang near everything. Because you mentioned, like, Sauce Gardner had a rough game. Stephon Diggs was cooking DJ Reed a little bit too, especially late in the game when they needed it on that final
Yeah,
drive.
Diggs did his thing. Yeah, he did his thing.
Exactly. But ultimately for me, this is just a case where Josh Allen, man, there's reasons why he was questioned in going into the season, especially by me. I was not scared to say it. I had questions about the Bills. I had questions about Josh Allen. And you mentioned it with everything he's doing, with the fact that, like, he's still kind of basically the running game to this team. We need to let more games go by. But does it not feel to you that, like, if it's not Josh Allen running the football, it just feels like the Bills can't get the running game going? Like,
Yeah.
Josh Allen, it's going to be another season that he needs to, for whatever reason, take this Herculean Atlas carrying the globe type thing with the Bills offense. And this might be the season where we finally see it all crumble. I thought it was going to be next season. This might be the season where the Buffalo Bills start to kind of cave in on themselves a little bit. You
Yes.
cannot continue to play your offense like this. You cannot continue to have Josh Allen be the only guy that's going to run. And you cannot continue to have him take these hits constantly, even though that's not a coaching staff thing. That's a Josh Allen thing. You cannot let that happen. You cannot have it be where if it's not Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen's going to think twice about throwing the football. You cannot allow this to happen. If you're Buffalo, you need to figure this out right away. Because if this happens, I'm saying this right now, one and done in the postseason. This team is not
Ooh.
going to win a single postseason game if they're going to play this poorly. They're not. They're not.
They almost lost to the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson.
That's something we continue to forget. Nearly every single win in the postseason for the Bills with Josh Allen, except for maybe one game, has been
Yeah,
by a possession
pass.
or less. Think about
Yeah.
it. The Phillip Rivers game, remember on this podcast, this was the first NFL postseason we did. The
Yeah.
Colts were a pass away, because they were too far from the end zone. They were a pass away from taking the lead with like seconds left in the fourth quarter. The Ravens game, they beat the Ravens because Lamar Jackson exited the game due to injury and Tyler Huntley finished the game. They've lost to the Kansas City Chiefs multiple times in the postseason, and they lost to the Bengals. They lost to the Chiefs and Bengals by multiple scores in the postseason at least once, and then they lose that game to the Chiefs in overtime. This team does not overwhelm their opponents. They just don't. The one overwhelming postseason win was against the fraud Patriots team from a couple years ago. That's it. That's the only postseason game where this team won by double digits. What? I've said this about the Minnesota Vikings, frauds. I said this about Daniel Jones, frauds. The Bills are close. Josh Allen's close to getting it, man. He does not deserve to be in the Mahomes-Burrow conversation. He does not. He does not. I think you could put Jalen Hurts above him now in the conversation fully. There is a lot to, and I know this might sound like a hot take, overreacting, etc. And look, it's just 1 week. Cut some slack. But you need to start with something to pick up on a trend. We need to pay attention to the Bills for the rest of the season, and we need to see what this team is really all about. Because I'm telling you, man, no reason they should have lost this game. That's an excuse. This is pathetic that they lost this game. I'm sorry. Like, you guys are my compatriots. I love the both of you. But ain't no way in hell the Jets should have won this game after Aaron Rodgers got it
Oh,
on
no,
the
for sure.
first drive. And you lost, and you threw 3 interceptions too? Nah, man. No,
It looked like he was trying to throw the game, to be honest.
there are a lot. Like, people, when Zach Wilson entered the game, people were making memes about like because there was this scene during the game where like Garrett Wilson was like kind of yelling at Zach Wilson, and people put like the joke in the meme of be like, "Bro, just throw it to the white jerseys." Are we not going to make a meme about Josh Allen with that? He threw it to the same guy on the Jets 3 times. What are we doing? What are we doing? How many guys in this league have career 3 interception games? How many? Jordan Whitehead's now one of them. What? What? Like, bro, no. I think this cements the Bills need to prove themselves this season. They like no longer should we need to consider them the top competition to the Kansas City Chiefs. They need to reprove themselves this season. This is a reproven year for the Buffalo Bills because I'm telling you, man. I said this a couple weeks back. Remember the episode we did when we like went over some NFL storylines, then we went over our standings. I said in both of those, does Josh Allen's career not start to resemble Cam Newton a little bit to you guys? Because he's taking hit after hit after hit after hit. The body's gonna break eventually, bro. Cam Newton's out of the league now. That's a guy who, in 2015, Cam Newton is still one of the top 5 individual seasons I've ever seen out of a professional athlete for myself personally. Josh Allen is like, you're not gonna last long doing that. And this Bills team only has so much it can do to support. The Buffalo Bills, big question mark for the rest of 2023 that they need to prove us wrong about. This is not the team that I thought it was going into the season. It's just not.
All right. That will end our NFL Week 1 recap. There are some notable games for week 2. One being tonight because I think Vikings and Eagles play tonight. This is a Thursday night game on Amazon Prime, I believe. Vikings, one of those teams.
Frauds.
They might go 0-2 to start off, and then there will be decisions to be made by the end of the season that I think will dictate the future of the team. I think Ravens Bengals is a big game. Seahawks Lions is going to be a big game. Chiefs Jaguars I think is going to be a huge game because the Chiefs, I don't know, Jaguars look good. You know, you start off 0-2. Oof. Bills Raiders is now a big game, especially for the Bills. 49ers Rams, are the Rams for real? And Dolphins Patriots, Tua's 5-0 against Bill Belichick. Are the Dolphins for real?
That's wild, by the way, that Tua's never lost to Bill Belichick.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. And of course Jets Cowboys just for the narratives. Other than that, yeah, I think some pretty big games this week. But yeah, week 1 of Clowns and Crowns. Jurg, can you explain the segment, please?
Woo-hoo, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part I've been waiting for the NFL season to come back. Crowns and Clowns, ladies and gentlemen, where Chris, Dame, and myself will be going week in and week out through the NFL season, and we will all be rewarding a certain player, or just being in general, with a crown if they were phenomenal in a certain week, or clown shoes, the whole shebang, nose, shoes, rainbow wig, the little car, the whole 9 yards. If they were an absolute stooge, buffoon, and just complete dunderhead, this in a certain week. I believe the all-time leader in clowns on this podcast is Russell Wilson. So how much?
No,
how
I
many,
don't know. I don't know.
Dame gave a lot of Tom Brady.
Tom Brady is up there.
For all the Bradys you gave, Dame, I gave a lot of Russell Wilsons last season too. So it's between Russell Wilson and Tom Brady. I don't know who it would be for crowns, but I think this is gonna be fun this season to go over and see who's gonna be the new leaders by the end of it. So let's do it. Do you want me to start things off, Chris?
Yeah, you want to start off with clowns or crowns?
Let's say clowns.
Okay.
All right. Whew, clowns. I could go with a lot of different things here. But my number one clown numero uno of week 1 of the season. I mean, did you expect me to pick anything else aside from the New York Giants offense? That's bad. I'll just go Daniel Jones as a whole. Like, it's just not good, bro. You helped prove my narrative so much. Thank you so much, Daniel Jones. I had a lot of clown contenders, but man, you didn't throw your first passing yard until you threw 2 interceptions. That's bad.
Okay, I'll go next. I thought you were gonna go with this individual, Jurg. I'm gonna go with Josh Allen for the performance he had, for the decisions he made, just for the CT-esque decision making, according to Dame. Just 3 picks, looking god awful for a team that we have Super Bowl aspirations for. So, Josh Allen, you get my clown award for the week. Dame?
I'm gonna go. This is easy. I'm going Dwayne Brown. We all know why, and I think just outside of that play, he was fucking atrocious anyway. And I'm surprised he even made it out the stadium alive. So yeah, Dwayne Brown. He should just retire, old fat piece of shit.
All right. Well, Dame, how about you follow up with that statement with your crown of the week?
Crown of the week. I guess I'll go with the obvious one. I'll go with Tyreek Hill. I predicted Tyreek Hill is going to go for 2,000 yards this season, just like, well, not predicted, but I agreed with him and his sentiment that he said he was going to go for 2,000 yards. I bet him to have the most receiving yards in the NFL. He went absolutely nuclear, as he said he would. 211 yards, I think 2 touchdowns as well. And against the Chargers secondary, it's actually pretty good. And just to go off like that, how does he not get a crown?
All right. I'm going to go for my crown of the week with the Jets defense. They are who we thought they were. One of the best in the NFL. I think a big reason why Josh Allen had the game he did is because of the Jets defense and how much they intimidated him. And they won the game for them, and they're going to win every game for the Jets that they do win this season. Hopefully it's a lot, but every game that the Jets do win, the defense will be because of it. And I think we're starting off hot with the win against the Bills. So Jets defense, you are my crown of the week. Jerg?
There's a lot of different guys I could go at for crown. You know what? Here's the thing. I am more than willing to admit when someone has proven me wrong for a various thing. I will give this week's crown to Jordan Love. He very much proved me wrong. He looked really good. This is his first actual proper start with being like QB1. And he continued the time-honored tradition of absolutely torching the Chicago Bears and torturing that fan base for at least one more game. So I got to give Jordan Love a lot of credit. He sliced and diced them up. You get a crown this week, good sir.
And that'll wrap up Crowns and Clowns for week 1. This will be a, reoccurring segment until the end of the NFL season. It's a popular one. But week 1 is in the books. Fellas, a phenomenal job as always. Great job steering the ship with me. Great analysis as always. Jerg, where can they find us on the socials?
Ladies and gentlemen, you already know you can follow us at somewhat.sports to get all of the latest updates when it comes to this podcast, including our week-by-week predictions that we will be doing here on the program itself. Week 2 actually went up during the recording of this episode, so it will very much be up by the time all your ears listen to the sonic airwaves that is this amazing audio medium podcast. Please make sure you follow us there at somewhat.sports, like I said. Like every single post, please comment. Let us know your thoughts on our predictions. Dame is the current leader in the standings as of now. Me and Chris are tied for second. Will we be able to rise to the top and overtake him? Who knows how many weeks that'll take, if ever, but we're going to, of course, do our damnedest. And speaking of this amazing podcast that your ears are listening to right now, please follow us, Somewhat Spaced in Sports, on YouTube and Spotify. Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us 5 stars on Spotify. Leave a review, please. Let us know what you want more of. Do you want more scathing rants and reviews? Do you want more, Sodom and Gomorrah and just depression overall when it comes to the Aaron Rodgers stuff? And some fantasy talk this season, which I think could probably be coming, maybe quarter way of the season, maybe halfway point through the season. I want to know how all that is going to look and much more. And you'll get all of that here on the Somewhat Sports Podcast, which very soon here in the coming weeks, we will be doing our NBA season predictions because, boys, NFL is here, but the NBA will be back too soon enough. Oh, fall is the most beautiful time of the year, and enjoy autumn with us as the Somewhat Sports Podcast rises to finish 2023.
Beautifully put as always, Jerg. Beautifully put as always. You two, Jerg and Dame, always kings in this sports field, just killing it as always. To all the listeners listening, if you made it this far, we appreciate you. And until next time, peace.